If you have never played Dead by Daylight before, or if you quit playing in the past and you've clicked on this video, I'm guessing you want to know if DBD is worth playing in 2024. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a complex question, but I want to make sure to answer it as honestly as possible. If you are unfamiliar with DBD, it's essentially the Super Smash Bros. Of horror. Almost every iconic movie or video game killer is present in the game now, with the roster growing larger every year. Likewise, there's a few notable survivors as well, and we just got our first guest survivor in the game, Nicolas Cage, who's fully voice acted by Nick Cage himself, which is awesome. But even if that's not your thing, there's plenty of original characters and easily some of the best cosmetics available in any game out there, as well as a ton of genuinely awesome events throughout the year. The gameplay itself is both very simple and highly complex. There's only one game mode, survivors repair gens, killers kill. On the surface, it's that simple and can become kind of boring quickly if you don't find a way to get more out of the basic gameplay loop. For some, that means trying out more interesting builds, and for others, it's to try to get really good at the game. DBD requires a lot of game knowledge for sure, but at its heart, it's a movement-based game. Now, the most important question to address up front is how difficult is it to get into DBD as a new or returning player? DBD is going into its 8th year now, and it's easy for new players to feel like they'll never be able to catch up to the veteran player base. There's just too many perks to unlock, too many maps to learn, and too much of a skill gap to ever have an enjoyable gameplay experience. It's a similar dilemma that all of these successful games as a service titles are having to deal with now. So let's address each one of these problems individually, starting with perks. All 4 survivors and the killer can bring up to 4 perks into a match. You unlock new perks by spending blood points, also known as experience points, on different characters. Once those perks are unlocked, they become available to use on every other character, allowing players to create interesting, unique builds with a ton of variety. Now, the intimidating thing here is that there are hundreds of perks in the game, but the good news is that the vast majority of them aren't very useful. That said, you will still need to learn what most of the perks do at some point, but seeing as almost every match you play you'll see the same 20 perks or so over and over again, there's no real rush to learn what all 246 perks do. Also, because you are free to spend your blood points on any character you want in any order you want, it won't take much time to get the best perks in the game. That said, even if you do want every perk in the game, yes, it will take you a long time for sure, but you can still get the perks you need relatively fast and then grind for the rest of the perks that seem interesting to you. It's not a negative thing to grind towards things you're interested in, yet I do need to mention that some of the better perks in the game are locked behind licensed characters, meaning you need to either pay $5 to unlock the character to have access to their perks, otherwise you will need to hope you get lucky and the perk you're looking for appears in the Shrine of Secrets. The Shrine of Secrets updates once per week or sometimes more often during certain events, and it gives you the chance to unlock 2 killer and 2 survivor perks each time if you have enough iridescent shards, which you earn for free just by playing the game. Next up is map knowledge. Now, like with any other game, there's a lot of value in learning the layouts of maps. However, with DBD, it's considerably less important than with other games. Most maps are relatively simplistic, and it's more important to know where certain things are on the map, like objectives, pallets, windows, strong tiles, and the location of survivors, rather than knowing the map itself, and the game gives you a lot of this information for free through order reading. There's also a lot of additional perks that can help with learning maps relatively fast. The last big question has to do with the skill gap between new players and veteran players. DBD used to have a very simplistic ranking system that worked very well in this regard, outside of a few exploits that could have been easily patched. However, that system was replaced with a very thoughtless skill-based matchmaking system. Not only does this system panic players into bringing the best possible meta builds into every match they play, but it also encourages players to play like their literal lives are on the line. Now, this wouldn't even be such an enormous issue if the system was well designed, but it's clearly not. Even as a new player, you can frequently get matched with veteran players who have been playing for years. So ironically, a system that was specifically designed to help new or more inexperienced players enjoy DBD is now the biggest hurdle when it comes to new or inexperienced players actually adopting it long term. I don't want to spend too much time on the SBMM topic, but it's really the worst thing about the game currently, and the more you play DBD, the more you'll realize why. Another topic I want to address is all of the available resources around learning the game. The content creators of DBD have thorough guides on just about everything, from how to play each individual character to the best builds, tier lists for everything, like literally everything, information on every map, every loop, literally everything. Not to mention really good live streams both on YouTube and Twitch, so there is just a plethora of available resources to help you with any aspect of the game. There is no denying the absolute passion of the DBD community. Now we need to quickly address something else. A lot of people come into Dead by Daylight thinking that they're playing a horror game, and at first it might seem that way, but it does fade pretty quickly. Beyond the occasional jump scare, DBD is a competitive game. Regardless of all the iconic horror characters in the game, in fact, if you're a huge fan of horror, there's a real possibility that DBD will make you hate some iconic characters you used to love. People, including myself, have tried to push the party game aspect of DBD, but it's safe to say at this point, the devs are no longer interested in that, at least not in the core game mode. By core game mode, I mean the only game mode in the game. Beyond just the addition of SBMM, the devs have consistently been updating for more competitively minded players. However, they have hinted that they may finally, after nearly a decade, be working on a new game mode, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for now. But yeah, don't let anybody give you the wrong idea. This is not a casual game. It has a competitive scene, tournaments, cheaters, an incredibly sweaty and kinda salty community filled with washed up tryhards who don't have the reaction time to play Call of Duty anymore. Alright, calm down, that's a joke. I'm sure you're still the best 360 no-scoper in the world. Also, while we're on the subject of the community, some people will say that DBD has the most toxic community of any game, and they're not exactly wrong. To be fair though, any competitive game that has been around for 8 or so years is going to have a toxic community. The thing that makes DBD a little more toxic is the never-ending tug of war between the die-hard survivor and killer main communities, always unhappy about basically everything, while the players who play both sides go completely insane. On that note, if you do decide to play DBD, for the love of all things merciful, play both sides or at least keep your opinions confidential. Of course, there are a ton of awesome people in the community as well, but again, it's not exactly a convention of horror lovers all celebrating the genre together as you might think. In fact, a lot of the community doesn't even like horror. They just love the idea of being able to teabag Pinhead and Freddy Krueger. So is Dead by Daylight worth playing or getting back into in 2024? Well, it depends on you. If you want to play DBD to play as an iconic killer, and you're willing to learn and understand the mechanics of the game, and you're also able to overcome the frustration and stress of a 1v4 scenario, then yes, I think you'll truly enjoy the game. If you're more interested in playing Survivor, I honestly probably would not do it unless you have a friend or friends that are willing to play with you and show you the ropes at the start. Fortunately, DBD is available on pretty much every platform that exists, and it's also on Xbox Game Pass with full crossplay across all platforms, so hopefully it's not too difficult to find a friend to play with. Playing with random teammates can be fun at times if you know what you're doing, but coming into the game fresh, it's a borderline unplayable and frustrating experience. You've also heard everything I've said up to this point about the game, so hopefully I've either convinced you to give DBD a shot, or I've reconfirmed all of your fears about the game. That's a decision only you can make. That said, as a long-term player myself, I honestly find DBD to be pretty stale right now. SBMM has corrupted the minds of most of the player base and turned them into complete meta slaves. Almost every match feels the same as the last, and as a player who tries to go against using meta builds, I'm massively punished. And keep in mind, I do pretty well because even at a disadvantage, I'm still good at the game. If you're a newer player, It will feel impossible to win at times if you don't have the meta perks unlocked, but I assure you, you can still win without meta if you take the time to learn how to play the game properly. The more crutches you use while learning how to play, the more you'll feel like they're absolutely necessary, which they're not in any normal scenario. All that said, I am curious, as a long-term player, would you currently recommend DBD to anybody? If you are a new or returning player considering playing DBD, have I convinced you in one way or another? Let me know. Also, if you've enjoyed the video or found it informative, please consider leaving a like or dislike, as it massively helps my ego channel. And as always, thanks for watching and have a good one.